Monday, February 24th, 2025. And the View started today with, as Sunny Hostin put it, the find out part of, I love that she couldn't say the whole thing, but it is the find out part of fuck around and find out, that Republican lawmakers are starting to feel the pinch from their constituents about all this bullshit that's going on with the Trump administration and Musk and this dodgy uh, uh, new department that is not finding any fraud or waste. They're just fucking things up. And we've said this before. That's been the whole point. All they want to do is make every government agency less efficient, um, more make it seem like they can't do the job, so that they can privatize that agency and take all that tax money for themselves. They being Elon Musk and the billionaire class. So that's been the plan all along. That's what they're going to do. And I don't know that we're going to be able to save this before they actually get there. Um, but it is heartwarming to see all of the resistance that is happening, specifically in really GOP heavy areas, and people that voted for him. And as much as I don't feel bad for them, they are sort of showing their what kind of bigotry and bullying they were interested in, and they're not so happy with what they're getting because they didn't think that they were going to be the target. And I think Whoopi said it. They were fine when it was all let's get the others, not realizing that they themselves were part of the others. Um, they just wanted it to be their perception of whoever the others were. Um, you know, if it's just the brown people, then sure. But you see these things where people are posting. It's like my daughter has her dream job with the Forest Service and just got fired, and this wasn't what we signed up for. She wasn't a DEI. It wasn't supposed to hurt us. It was like, oh, okay. Well, first of all, she's a woman, so she is part of diversity, equity, and inclusion program. I mean, not program, initiatives. And it doesn't matter. But you are telling on yourself to be like, it wasn't supposed to affect us. Um, so it is the find out part for a lot of people. And I'm glad to see people are mad enough that they're taking it to their elected officials and feeling the heat, and that the officials are not getting away with just assuming we are going to buy the lies, because it's exposed that this dodgy group. I kind of like that. That was Anna's. Let's just call him dodgy. I think she said call him Dodge, but I'm going to call them dodgy. Um, because they're lying. I mean, they're not finding fraud. They're not finding waste. They're just fucking things up, and that's the intent. That's what they wanted to do. Um, but it's nice to see that there's enough of the American people that are being like, no, no, that's not what we wanted. Um, because I think anybody's in favor of eliminating wasteful spending, but this isn't the way you go about doing it. And I think Musk just said it offered everybody 5 grand. Fuck, are you kidding? He hasn't saved any money yet. Um, and then there's so many things and they're all tied together. But so that whole thing, like, I don't feel bad for the people that voted for him and are now angry and feeling disillusioned. Um, but uh, Joan, I keep wanting to call her Joan Rivers. Um, Jane Fonda is right in her speech that she gave at the SAGs last night. I love award shows, by the way. I think the red carpet stuff has just gone really. Maybe that's why Joan Rivers is on my mind. She created that whole industry just by asking who are you wearing. Anyway, uh, when Jane Fonda said we're going to need a really big tent, talking about welcoming people with empathy, even though they have different political ideologies, blah blah blah. We're going to need a big tent to fight what's coming at us, and she's right about that. That we are going to need, all of those efforts. Every bit of resistance helps, no matter where it comes from. Um, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to forgive you. Unless there's some contrition. Like, the only reason we have to do this is because you were a dumbass to begin with, but let's do this together, and then we can figure out all the other stuff later. And I'm worried that the Democrats, we do too much infighting and nitpicking in the process, um, without accomplishing the goal. So I hope that the tide turns hard enough. I don't know that that we last until the midterm elections. That's a really long time away from now, and I don't know that they're going to be free and fair elections. So that's it. It seems like we have to go harder sooner, and it's nice to see that that momentum is starting to build. I saw a thing. The U.S. It's either the Army or the Navy. I can't remember. Choral Group came into the White House to some event with all these Republican lawmakers, and they sang "One Day More" from Les Mis, which is it's a musical all about standing up to tyranny. And so it's, I mean, and that in itself is an act of resistance to say, hey, we see what's going on. The dum-dums on the right, they either don't get the cultural reference because the arts is not their thing, or they're trying to turn it around and say, hey, yeah, it is the Republicans fighting the tyranny of the Democrats, not understanding what any of those words mean. Um, and living in some strange Fox News reality. I found that funny this morning. That's what they chose to sing to the Republicans in the White House. Um, but yeah, I mean, all of that is sort of tied together about you know we need everybody, and we need to make sure that we're all fighting against what's coming. And I don't usually like talking about the guests, but Amy Klobuchar said she went on and she talked about the things that they're doing on the floor, and what they're doing with attorney generals around the country, and that's great that she goes on the View and says this, but she said something that is sort of the key, that is part of the problem. She said people won't be with you unless they think you're fighting for them. And that's the thing, is that we can't see that you're fighting for us. And which is why I think this daily briefing thing is important. And it doesn't need to be the same people every day, but it does need to be what is the thing that's talked about. You need to make sure, if it's calling out all of the Republicans for demanding that billionaires get tax cuts, make that the news. Be the thing that makes that the news. And just going on here and there and doing the work on the floor and going on Sunday talk shows, it's not enough. You have to make it the news so that it's covered everywhere. So you just have to be louder. And that's what the Democrats are really missing the mark here on, is that without making it the news, no one's going to feel like you're fighting. Yes, the local stuff is important, and town halls and all that stuff is great, but you need to be louder. Um, so it's in order for us to know and believe that you're fighting for us, because we see Hakeem Jeffries going on a fucking book tour that doesn't seem like he's fighting for us. Anyway, a couple of other little notes, administrative notes. One, Alyssa was sick today, and the show is so much more enjoyable when she's not there. um, it's I don't like her energy, I guess, because it was just kind of a relief, and it makes me think about when I started this whole thing. It's because Meghan McCain came back from um, her maternity leave, and it was like, and just destroyed the sort of the conversation and energy. And it wasn't even around the table because it was, I think, pandemic, and they were still doing virtual um, uh, broadcasts. I think Sarah was in the studio and everybody else was at home. But even then, she just disrupted the flow of conversation, and sort of any sense of um, I don't know. I don't want to say unity, because it's okay. It's fine to have differing opinions, but it just really altered the energy, and made it more combative. And I feel like Alyssa's now starting to do the same thing. And um, which leads me to I over last weekend I changed or last week I changed the name um, of this page from Megan McCain is the worst, and I just left that MMITW and I changed it to the view from over here because I'm mostly just talking about the view anyway, and and it was only because where we are right now, like Megan McCain is just is too irrelevant to be considered the worst anymore. I left her stupid picture up there because I think it's hilarious. But there's so much worse that's going on that I don't even think it's funny to leave her in the title. I'll leave it there sort of as a legacy, but I I just there's just too much else going on that's too bad that I she's the least of our worries. The Princess of Arizona has made herself irrelevant, specifically by the criminality of this particular administration. Um, so, anyway, that's that. Happy Monday.